Hello, it's Mr. Mehi here, and today we're going to answer part 1 of a 3-part series that answers the age-old question that a lot of people ask, and that is, how do you become rich? Now in this video, we're going to go through the first core principle of achieving this, and that is to lower your expenses. So you're wondering, how does lowering your expenses contribute to becoming rich? Well, the first thing is that they smash the like button. Okay, now that that's done, let's go through an example. Let's say your friend makes $150,000 and you make $100,000. Who would you say is richer? Most often people will say that your friend is richer. But what if I told you that he has to spend $140,000 in order to maintain his lifestyle, whereas you only need to spend $50,000? Who would you say is actually richer now? Clearly, it would be you. But why would lowering expenses help you become richer? Now, while it may seem obvious, here's one way to look at it. In this case, your friend can only save $10,000 per year. This means that in order to save up 1 year's worth of living expenses of $140,000, he would need to save for the next 14 years. Now for you, you're saving $50,000 a year. Well, your living expenses are also $50,000 a year. And so it means that for every year that you work, you're actually saving up a year's worth of living expenses. This means that if you save like this for the next 14 years like your friend, then you'd have enough to live purely on your savings for the next 14 years. There's a phrase by those who are actually wealthy and rich: the rich live as if they're poor, whereas the poor live as if they're rich. Obviously, this is a bit of an exaggerated phrase, but you get the point. So what are the 3 ways that can help you lower your expenses? Now, the biggest thing that I personally do to lower my spendings is that I use something known as an envelope system. Now, back in the day when money was tangible and not electronic, people needed a way to allocate their cash, and so they used envelopes. Every time they got paid, they would automatically divide up their pay and put them into separate envelopes. One envelope would be named bills, the other would be named savings, the next could be splurge money. You get the idea. By doing so, it became very easy to control the amount you spent because you already allocated that set amount that you're able to use. Once that specific envelope is empty, then there's no more money to spend, and thus it prevents you from accidentally spending more than what you budgeted for. In today's world, people achieve the same principle by having separate bank accounts. So for example, I have an account that is used for weekly living expenses, bills, house renovations, gift money for others, mortgage, stock investments, and personal splurge money. Every time my wife and I get paid, we automatically transfer a set amount of our pay into each of these accounts. This allowed us to control how we spend our money without feeling guilty. Now, the second thing that I personally do is that I track all my expenses on a spreadsheet. In other words, I have a budget. Now, it doesn't have to be a spreadsheet per se, but it has to be some sort of way that you can figure out where all your money is going. Have you ever told yourself this question or this statement at the end of a week? I have no idea where all my money went. If you have, then you should probably have a budget. How can you lower your expenses if you have no idea what you're spending it on? That's why I track my expenses. To be specific, I'm looking out for what percentage of money is going to each category. Whichever category has the highest percentage, that is where I tend to focus most of my efforts in trying to reduce that expense. Now, the last thing I personally do is that before I even make a purchase, I ask my wife for approval. Now, some people might say that's because I'm whipped. Maybe. But in all seriousness, by asking for approval before I purchase something, it means that it takes 2 of us to make a purchase. That makes it increasingly more difficult to accidentally spend money on impulse buys. The advertising industry is extremely powerful because they know how to play on emotions, which overrides logical thinking. So to prevent in-the-moment emotional purchases, I know that I have to consult her and she has to consult me before we even make a purchase. Now you're probably thinking, what if I wanted to go buy a bottle of water? Would I still have to ask for permission? Well, that's what our splurge accounts are for, back when we were talking about the envelope system. These are small accounts where we can spend on whatever we want, whenever we want, without permission. And because they are so small, and we've allocated a very small amount to it, they don't impact our ability to live frugally. And that's it, guys. That was the first principle to becoming wealthy. Now, if you liked that video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video. you.